Thank you, Governor. And Governor, I do want to thank you. I want to acknowledge your leadership in dealing head-on in this crisis and dealing from the front as we grapple with this crisis. I also want to acknowledge the great work of our controller, Tom DiNapoli, who was here probably at his first leaders meeting today, but being very productive in analyzing the state's economy as the events are taking place. Even before the tumultuous events of the past few weeks, Governor, you sounded the alarm and helped to focus the attention of our state on the looming crisis that was, as it turned out, just around the corner. In August, we came together on a bipartisan basis, and in record time, we opened this budget and engaged in a first round of belt tightening that will help New York navigate the remainder of this fiscal year. That was the right thing to do then, and it still is. We need to act. Delay will only put off the inevitable and limit our ability to deal with this crisis without resorting to unacceptable and unsustainable fiscal gimmicks. I welcome your commitment, Governor, to submit your executive budget early and pledge that the Assembly will work closely with you and our colleagues in the Senate in the same bipartisan fashion to deliver a budget that will safeguard not only our credit rating, but our shared priorities for the working men and women of New York. Hopefully, as we speak, our colleagues in government in Washington are preparing to give final approval to vital legislation to begin to ease the credit crisis and restore confidence in our markets and in our economy. A worsening of the credit crisis would put not only New York City's financial sector, but small business people, homeowners, and ultimately all New Yorkers at risk of a much deeper economic calamity. But the federal legislation is not enough. It will not provide additional unemployment benefits for the tens of thousands of unemployed New Yorkers whose benefits are expiring each week that we continue in this crisis. And it will not provide mortgage relief to the thousands of New Yorkers facing foreclosure or help with what unfortunately promises to be staggering home heating bills as the weather begins to turn colder. As we move forward and we bring our own fiscal house in order, we will need to tighten our belts and inevitably make some very tough decisions. But we also need to insist that government does more to help middle-class families and small business people who are struggling. And while we will not shrink from our tough choices, we must remember that it is precisely in times like these when government must step in and provide relief and stimulate our economy. Just as the Fed has injected liquidity into the market, government has a role to play in putting unemployment checks, home heating relief into the hands of working people who need it and who can spend it and get our economy moving again. If Congress leaves town without passing a stimulus bill, we may have to look at targeted, fiscally responsible approach to providing direct relief and stimulating our New York economy. In the beginning of November, all of us are required to release our revenue forecast for the current and upcoming years. I want to assure you, Governor, that I will call the members of the Assembly back on November 18th and begin to work with them before November 18th to make sure that we are successful in this difficult circumstance. Earlier this week, I called for hearings on the impact of federal action, if any, on the New York economy. Our Assembly committees are beginning to schedule budget and related hearings. Our Ways and Means Committee is targeted October 23rd in New York City to begin the public process of assessing the consequences of this crisis